we are going to be looking at basic tools in Revit architecture. And the first tool we'll look at is Move. I believe you can see my cursor. This is Move. And it is very, very important in Revit because in the course of our modeling, we move things around. All right. Now, in the course of our modeling, we always move things around. And this icon you are seeing here is called Move. And there are several ways you can move things around in Revit. You can use this icon, and you can also use select and drag. Assuming I want to use this icon, what I will do is I'll select this icon first, then select the object I want to move, and right click, finish, then pick the object I want to move and move it to the distance I want to move it to. If I want to specify the distance, you can see that I can actually type the specific distance I want to move it to. Let's say 4,600 mm. Then I press enter. You can see that object has been moved. Let me undo that. Now, another way I can move it is to select this object first. In the first place, I selected Move first, but this time around, I select the object first. Then I go to Move and pick it. Now, I can pick it from anywhere. I can pick it from here. I can pick it from here. I can even pick it from here. Anywhere at all. Even empty space, I can pick it from there. So let's assume that I decide to pick it from here. Drop it here. I have moved it. So I've shown you two ways you can move things around in Revit now. And another way is I simply select it. And once I select it, I press my mouse and drag it. I can drag it to anywhere I want to move it to. And this one, you cannot actually specify the dimension you are moving it. You just move it arbitrarily. And this applies to anything. You can almost anything in Revit. You can use drag and drop, and it's almost the fastest. Okay, so that is where we will stop as regard moving things around in Revit. Now let's move to the next tool. The next tool is copy. And we have all these tools in most of the softwares that we use for designing. Copy is like move, but in the case of copy, you are going to have another copy. You have a duplicate of that object. Okay, so if you want to copy things in Revit, you are modeling, you need to copy something. Just like we moved the other time, you can go to copy first. That is, you go to the icon. You can see the icon here. I click and select the object. Right click, then select finish. Then, like we did in move, we can pick it from a specific point. Now if I decide to pick it from this point, it means where I'm going to drop the copy version will be at the same distance. Can you see the advantage of that? Let me delete all these things so that it makes it clearer. Let me delete this one. Let me delete this one as well. No, let that one serve as our reference point. Okay, let's say I want to copy this one, and I want where I want to copy it to, I want the distance to be the same. You can see the distance we have here is 4,950 mm. So if I want to copy it and I want the duplicate to have the same dimension, so all I will do is to highlight it, go to copy, and pick it from this point and go to wherever I want to drop it. And as I'm hovering my cursor on that point, you can see that it's snapping to that point. So I drop, and the command is still on. For me to exit, I can press escape on my keyboard and I am out, or click on this modify and I am out of that command. And now if you measure it now, you see that the same distance we have here, which is 4,950 mm, is the same that we have here. That is what copy can give you. Let me show you example of what we are talking about. Let's say I decide to copy this. I want to repeat it so that you get it clearly. Or I highlight this one, then pick it from this point, drop it here. I can drop it as many as possible, and I can snap a point. I can drop as many of them as possible. Now if you measure it now, you see that the distance are the same. The distance are the same, 4,950 mm. You can see it's the same. Okay, so that is, I've shown you two ways you can copy now. You highlight the object first before you go to copy, or you go to copy first before you select the object and right click on your mouse and then click on finish selection, then pick the object. All right, then the third way you can copy things in Revit, you select, let me delete all these ones. You select the object, then hold on your control on your keyboard. You hold control. I believe if you are used to computer, you will know control on your keyboard. So you hold on your control and you press your mouse and you drag it. It's copied. This one is one of the fastest way of copying things in Revit. That's the one I use most because it's very fast. You just press your control, press your mouse and drag. And this applies to almost anything you are copying in Revit. But the disadvantage here is it doesn't have specific dimension. You just drag, you cannot specify the dimension. But it's very good. I will show you how you can handle that. In this case, you use dimension to specify the dimension you want to use. Okay, so that is three ways. I've shown you three ways now. The fourth way you can copy in Revit is to use shortcuts. You can use shortcuts. We also call it hotkey. So if I want to copy this now, and I don't want to go to this icon, or I don't want to use the control, I can use CO. CO is copy, and I click on this, and you can see I have copied already. That's the use of shortcuts or hotkey. This one can even make your work very, very fast. Okay, so that is copy. We have discussed 4 ways you can copy things, and this also applies, this shortcut also applies to move. I didn't talk about that one when I was discussing about move. I think move is MO thereabout. I can't remember the shortcut for move now. We'll do that one later. Okay, so let's go to the next tool. The next tool is extend slash trim. Extend slash trim. Now I have this wall that is projecting away from this wall. I can decide to cut it. The process of cutting it is called trim. And this is the tool that we can use. This tool, or let's say these three work similar. You can see this one, this and this. They are similar. The work of this one is when you have it at an angle. That is the best tool to use when you have it at an angle. Then for this particular one, when you are working on single elements, and that means if you use it once, the command is off. But this third one, that means you have multiple things to trim or to extend. In AutoCAD, we have trim differently and we have extend differently. But in Revit, those two are combined together. So if, for instance, I want to trim this corner, I want to cut this one off, I can use any of these three and it will work. So I pick this one, click the first point and click the second point. You can see that this one is cut off. Let me undo. What if I want to use this second tool, this second icon, this one that is showing single? I pick it, click where I want it to go, then go to the back and click. You can see it has cut it off. Let me undo that. What if I click here and I go here? You see that it is the other way that will be cut off. So you always go to the back of it. That is where it will be able to trim it. I click here, go to the back, and boom, it has cut. Let me undo that again. What if I want to use this multiple? I click here, the same thing, click where I want it to go, then go to the back of it and click. I've cut it. Now with this multiple, I can cut as many as possible. I can cut as many as possible. That is trim for you. What if I have object that is not to the point I want it to reach? Let's say I have something that is short. I want this particular one to reach here, and I want this one to reach here. In this case, I am going to use extend. And fortunately for us, extend and trim are having the same purpose. So I can select any of these, but this, in this case, since it's not at the corner, this corner will not apply here. So I'm going to use any of these, but I always prefer to use this multiple. So what I will do is to click where I want it to go, then click the object and it will go there. Okay, what if I want it to come here? I click here first, then click the object, and boom, it has gone there. If I want it to come here again, I need to click empty space, then click here and click here. And on the other hand, I can decide to trim it at the same time. I click empty space, click at the back, then go to the back. So this tool is very useful in your modeling. Without this tool, you cannot complete your modeling successfully. And I believe somebody is getting it. All right. Now you can also use shortcut for this tool, but we will not deal with the shortcut for now. Okay, let's go to the next tool. The next tool is mirror. The next tool we will look at is mirror. And just like the name suggests, and that is the same purpose itself. What if I want to repeat this wall on this end? I can use mirror to do that. I want to repeat it exactly. Or let me just draw a line. Let me use line now so that I will not be using wall. Okay, assuming I have this line. Okay, I want to make it curve. Okay, now I have this line. I want to mirror it to the other side. In mirroring, I need axis. So we have two types of mirror here. You have the first one. The first one is peak axis. That means you already have an axis that is existing. And the second one is draw an axis. So if I want to use this peak axis, that means I must have an existing axis. Let's say I already have a line that is existing that will serve as my axis, or I want to use this wall, the center of this wall, that will serve as my axis. So I simply select it, go to mirror, pick axis, and pick the axis I want to pick. And you can see I have a copy of it on the other side. And you can see that it's facing the opposite. That is mirror for you. Okay, then let me delete this one. What if I want to draw instead of picking an axis? I simply select the object, then use draw. And this one is very helpful, especially if you want to pick from the center of wall or the center of line. It's very helpful, so that you can see small triangle. It's showing that I am at the center of that wall. So I click and draw, and I make sure it's going up vertically, and boom, I have the copy of it. Okay, now what if I want to pick the wall, this particular wall, as an axis? I select it, go to mirror, and draw the axis at the center of this wall. and boom. And if you measure it now, you see that the distance is the same. You can see the distance is the same, 3,866 mm. Okay, that is mirror for you. And another way, what if I don't want to have a copy of it? I want to have it on the other side, but I don't want it to copy. In that case, I'm going to select it, go to mirror, and on the option bar you see that copy is selected. So if I don't want to have a copy of it, I am going to uncheck copy and either pick or draw my axis, and boom, you can see it has mirrored it and there is no copy of it. This is very, very important. There are sometimes you need this kind of mirror. You want to mirror it without copying it. Very, very important. Okay, and you can also use shortcut for this. We will deal with the basic thing. If you are starting, start with the icon first before you start introducing shortcuts. I don't want to go into shortcut now so that I will not confuse some people. All right, now let's go to the next tool. The next tool is offset. We also have it in AutoCAD. Assuming I want to copy this wall. At specific distance and not just one. I want to copy multiple. It could be multiple, it could be one. I can use offset, and this offset work for both wall and lines. It can work for any type of line, any type of wall. Okay, so if I want to use offset now, you can see the tool here. The tool shows curved lines that are concentric. Okay, so if I want to offset, I can click on this offset icon first, and on the option bar I can type the dimension I want to offset it by. Let's say I want to offset it by 3,000 mm, and the moment I hover my cursor on that particular object, you see a small dashed line showing where the copy version of it is going to drop, and I click, and you can offset as many as possible, and you can go any direction you want to go. This is very, very cool. You can go any direction. Okay, so that is offset. And another way to offset is just like mirror. Let's say I don't want a copy of it. Let's say I want to offset this one. In other words, we can use offset to move things also. So I want to move this one by 3,000 mm. I can use offset to do that. And in this case, I am not going to select copy again. I am going to unselect copy and click. You can see it has moved it. The more I continue to click it, the more it's moving it by that specific distance. There are sometimes you need this. You don't need a copy and you want it to move at specific distance. It is very, very helpful. And this applies to anything at all. Let's say this is a line now. I want to offset it by 100 mm. and let me have a copy of it. I copy, you can see. Can you see that? Okay. Now what if I don't want to have a copy of it? Assuming I don't want to have a copy of this offset, and you can see I am not having a copy of it anymore. Okay, that is offset for you. Now there is another type of offset. This particular one, I use it for small objects when I am modeling tiny objects. This one is, instead of selecting numerical, I select graphical. And in this case, you are not going to specify any dimension, but the object is going to be offset. You are going to have offset, but you are not specifying dimension. Okay, and this work for both copy and whether you don't want to have a copy of it. So if I want to use that graphical now, I select the object, you can see, and I pick it. So this one, I have liberty to drop it anywhere I want to drop it. When I am moving it and I can see that with this, what I have now is okay, I simply drop it. And if I want to have a copy of it, I select and pick it from that and I drop. So this particular one, I don't specify dimension, and is very nice. Okay, that is another way you can offset objects in Revit. Now let's look at another very cool tool in Revit, and that is align. Align is very useful. You can use it to align some things. Let's say I have a line. Let me just draw a line here. And I want this line to be at the center of this wall. There are several ways I can do it. I can move, I can drag, I can also use a line. So if I want to use a line now, this is a line, you can see it here. Look at the tool. I pick it, pick where I want it to go, and click the object that I want to align. And you can see it's already at the point I want it to be. That is, and you can decide to lock it. If I lock it now, anywhere I move one of these, the two of them have to go together. You can see that because I locked it. So if you don't lock it, then if I move one, it means that it is only one of them that will move. Okay, this locking system is very good when you are modeling Revit family. We will get into that later. All right, that is align. Let me show you another example using wall. And this align can work for wall, it can work for window, doors, almost anything. I can align these two walls. Let's say I have this one, they are not on the same place, but I want to make them to be on the same alignment. So I click where I want it to go, then click the object I want to move. You can now see that these two walls are aligned now. Correct. Okay, let's move to the next tool. And the next tool we want to look at is create similar. Create similar. If you are getting value from this training, make sure after this training you subscribe to my channel. Okay, all right, now let's move on. Create similar is used to create a similar object. let's say I have wall now. This is a wall, and the name of this wall is basic wall 225 wall. So if I want to create the exact type of this wall, it's very simple. All I need to do is select this wall, and the moment I select it, you see that this icon is active. This create similar is active. It's active. So I select it and click on it, and from that moment, any wall I create have the same property as this one. Can you see? All right, now that is wall for you. What if I want to create a line? This is a line, and the name of this line is thin line. So if I want to create a similar line, all I need to do is to select it, go to create similar, and any line I'll be creating from that moment has the same property as the first one. Now these are lines. What if I have windows? Let me drop one window to use for this example. Okay, now this is a window. If I want to create this similar window, let's say I have so many windows, but the particular window I want to create is this particular one. So I simply select this window and go to create similar, and boom, I can drop it. And any moment from that time, all the window I'll be creating will be having the same property as the first one. Okay, that is create similar. You can use it to create so many things. You remember, if you attended my training when I was dealing with how to create level, we use this tool. So it's very important in Revit. Okay, let's move to the next tool, and we'll be dealing with split. Split is very useful. If for instance I have this wall and I want to cut it, I want to cut this place open, one of the tools that I can use is called split, and I will go to my modify tab here. When I am on modify tab, I go to this icon. You can see split here, so I click on it, and the moment I click on it, you see something like chisel, and that shows you that I can cut this wall and cut this wall. Okay, now that I've cut the wall, I can delete the center, and you see that wall is cut. So as for this particular one, I can either use trim or extend to clean this place up. All right, now let's look at another. Let me undo that to look at the other side of it. If you look at this second icon, you see split with gap. If I want to use that one, then once I click, a gap is created. It has its own use, though I don't always use it. The one I use most is this particular one. So let's go back to this one. Let me undo. Okay, now if I want to use this split and I want to cut this one, and I don't want to suffer myself to go back and be deleting again, so all I need to do is to select delete inner segment, and once I select that delete inner segment, if I click the first point, click the second point, the inner segment will be deleted automatically. I click the first point, the second point, the inner segment is deleted. Click the first point, click the second point, the inner segment is deleted. That tool is very useful. This split, I love it so much. Okay, that is that. We are going to deal with dimension. Dimension is very important. Dimension helps you to ascertain the size of your design, so that you can know the scale of your design. You don't just design. In architecture, we don't design without dimension. We design with scale. Okay, now let me show you how you can get your dimension. You go to while you are on modify tab, you see dimension here. Now beside it you see a little drop down, and this means that you have so many of them, but the one that I use most is this align dimension. And once in a while I use radial. I also use angular, but for now let's deal with align. So if I want to know the distance between two of this wall, once I pick dimension, you can see it here, it's already active. But once in a while you need to check this option bar to know what you are going to pick. Here I can pick wall faces, I can pick center line, wall center line. If I take it to center line now, everything I'll be picking is center of the wall. I cannot pick the face of the wall, I can only pick center. Now this one always gets new beginner, those who are starting Revit, confused, because they actually want to pick the edge of the wall, but they are not seeing it picking it, and they get confused. So if I want to pick the edge of the wall while the dimension is active, on the option bar I click on this drop down and select wall faces, and boom. For those of us that are just joining us, we are treating how to use basic tools in Revit to model. Okay, you are all welcome. All right, now this is dimension for you. Okay, and very cool, you can dimension and make it linear, or you make it just single dimension. If I want to know just the gap between here and here, and while I have picked it, no, until I drop it before it work. If I don't drop it and I keep clicking on if I click here, it's no longer active. So if I want to drop it now, I can drop it here, I can even drop it here. So far is empty space, I'm going to drop it, boom, it work. Okay, so this dimension is very useful. What if I want to make this wall, I want to make it, let's say 3000 mm. So I select this wall first, then select the dimension and edit it, and press my enter, and it work. All right, that is dimension for you. And what if an object is at an angle? Let's say I have this wall that is at an angle to this wall, and I want to know the degree. I want to know the degree. What is the degree between these two walls? So in that case, I'm going to click on this drop down and select this angular dimension, and from here I can pick here, and you can see this is 26 degree. This is going to be very helpful if you want to know the degree of the slope of anything. It could be a line, it could be a wall. It's going to help you a lot. Okay, and what if I have a wall. I have a wall that is circular, or I have an arc that is circular. Okay, this wall is circular and I want to know the radius. I can go here, pick radial dimension, and once I click, it will show me the radius of this cycle. Any curve at all. You can see this is a curve. I click here, you can see the radius is 450 mm. Okay, so that is that about dimension. Let's move to the next object. Let's move to the next tool. The next tool we want to deal with is rotate. And this tool is very useful. And just like the name implies, it is used to rotate objects. Let's say I have this wall that is bent at an angle and I want it to be straight. In that case, I'm going to be using rotate. Moving will not be effective at this point. So I select it. You can see rotate here. This is rotate. And now I can pick it from a particular point. Automatically, Revit allow me to pick from the center. What if I don't want to pick it from the center? In that case, while the command is still selected, I'm going to click on place. Now I can now place it at the point I want to rotate it. And once I have done that, I am going to go up, go to where I want it to be, and when I am satisfied with where I want it to be, I drop it, and boom, you can see this wall is now vertical. Let me undo that. Okay, now what if I want to rotate it? I want to rotate it by a specific degree. In that case, I select it, go to rotate, and pick it from the point I want to rotate it, the axis. And here I can type the angle. Let's say I want to rotate it by 45 and press enter. You can see I've rotated it by 45. Let me undo that again and give you another dimension to rotate in it. Now, this is the object I want to rotate, and this time around I want a copy of it. I want to rotate it and as well copy it. So what I will do is select it, select rotate, and check this copy on the option bar, and I can type the angle at the same time. Let's say 26, and press enter. Can you see that it has rotated it and we now have a copy of it? Cool. So once in a while there are times you need this type of rotate, that you need a copy of it. It's very useful. Okay, so that is rotate. So far we have dealt with 10 basic tools in Revit, and if you follow me closely, using this tool you will be able to design simple building. You'll be able to plan with these 10 tools I've shown you now. You will be able to plan a simple 3-bedroom, a simple 4-bedroom flat. Okay, and I hope you have benefited from this training. Okay, so that is the much we can take as far as this training is concerned. But one more thing, now I have a step-by-step training that I created. I call it Revit Tutorial Masterclass, and in this training I'll be taking you step by step until you master how to use Revit. Now some of you are on this call now. I can perceive that some of you have never used Revit before, or you are just starting, or some of you have even passed this level we are treating now. You have passed this stage. What I do in Revit Tutorial Masterclass is that course can serve for both beginner and newbie. The one we have treated today is for complete beginner. What if you have passed this stage but you are not yet proficient in the use of Revit? Then I recommend you gain access to Revit Tutorial Masterclass. And I am going to be dropping the link. I'm going to be sharing the link where you can get this course.